Hi everyone, we're gonna get started. I hope you guys are all doing well today. Welcome to today's information session for the Masters of Public Administration in Environmental Science and Policy at Columbia University. My name is Stephanie Hoyt. I'm the Assistant Director of the program and I'll be kicking off our session. Before we dive in, I wanna make sure you guys can hear me. If you can, make sure if you could type yes in the chat box, that would be great. While everybody's typing yes, I'd like to share a few housekeeping items. During the presentations, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. We'll be doing a Q&A session at the end. Lastly, I wanted to share that today's session will be recorded and it will be made available to you at the end of the day. At this time, I would like to welcome and introduce today's presenter, Professor Steve Cohen. In addition to being a professor at the practice of public affairs at Columbia University's School of International Public Affairs, Dr. Cohen is also the director of the MPA ESP program that we'll be reviewing here today. Outside of the MPA in Environmental Science and Policy program, Dr. Cohen is a senior vice dean at the School of Professional Studies, the director of the Masters of Science in Sustainability Management, and the director of research of the research program in Sustainable Policy and Management at Columbia's Earth Institute. Without further ado, how are you today, Steve?
Well, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you all for joining us today through the miracle of modern technology. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our program, the Earth Institute, SEPA, why you might want to apply. I'll talk about the curriculum, the advantage of Columbia for you professionally, studying here in New York and our alumni network, and how to apply and some next steps. Normally, I would be encouraging you to visit campus. We're in full session right now, but we're online over the summer and the fall. We're going to be in a hybrid format where sometimes we'll be in class and sometimes we'll be doing this again. My hope is that by the end of May, when the class hopefully you'll be in meets, we will be past this pandemic. That's at least our hope. So the Earth Institute is over 750 scientists and managers and analysts, and it is the largest research institute at Columbia University. It has a couple of dozen research centers and research programs. My own research program is part of the institute, but it has the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, the International Research Institute on Climate and Society, and it really has an amazing collection of people studying everything from toxic waste and environmental pollution to climate change. It actually has more climate scientists than any institution in the world, well over 100. And so the Earth Institute, which I was executive director of for 12 years, created this program in 2002 when I was the director of education for the Institute. We worked with SEPA because institutes can't offer degrees, only schools can at Columbia. And so we formed a partnership between SEPA and the Earth Institute, which created the program. Now, SEPA itself is a really interesting place. I've been teaching there since 1981. It was founded in 1946 in the aftermath of World War II. It established its MPA program, its first one in 1977. And this MPA program back in 2002. And so it has thousands and thousands of alums. It has a deep and rich tradition, very close connections to the United Nations and to the international community. And it really is a global public policy school. It's the #1 global public policy school in the world. And this has been going on for well over 70 years now, and over 100 countries are represented in the school. More than half of SEPA's student body is from outside the United States. And so when our program begins in late May, our students occupy the International Affairs building, and it's just our students and a few others. And then in Labor Day, all the other students come, and suddenly it goes from being a small town to being a major city. And we're looking forward to those crowds a year from now. Why this program is worth your attention? Well, first, this is a practical professional degree program. This is not a program to think about and study the environment. This is a program that's designed to turn you into a cutting-edge sustainability professional. Uh, we think, and this is why we created the program almost 2 decades ago, that we need more effective leaders in environmental sustainability. We particularly need people who can help translate science for less scientifically literate leaders. In a sense, those of us watching COVID-19 have seen the same thing that we've seen in climate change happening with uh, uh, this disease. The experts, the scientists, know what we need to do and have a great deal of knowledge and have not been able to communicate that effectively to the people running this country or China or literally any country, really. And so there's been a lot of stumbling around. We see the same thing in the environmental field. And so part of what we've been doing in this program with our graduates and with our current students and with the Earth Institute is bring together a network of practitioners and really trying to bring better science, better analysis into the management of our organizations. So our graduates do very well professionally, but they do it in a field that they really care about. And this is very important to us. The program has several unique features. First, it's the only public policy program that requires applied environmental science courses. Now, many programs allow you to do dual degrees. So you might get a master's in environmental science and a master's in public policy with an emphasis on environment. What we do in this program is we require our policy students to take 12 points of environmental science in the summer. This summer of science is taught by Earth Institute environmental scientists from Lamont, from different parts of the Institute. And it also then, because of that science orientation, if you're from outside the United States, makes it a STEM program, which means that you're eligible for 3 years of work authorization for F1 visa holders instead of just one. It's also an immersive program. It's 18 points a semester for 3 semesters. And what that means is that you're doing 2 years worth of work in one calendar year. What does that mean? Well, first, it saves time. And secondly, it saves money. It's only 1 year of foregone income. And instead of paying for 4 semesters of tuition, you pay for 3. And so that's one of the advantages. We're also, though, about not just doing policy analysis. We are a very applied, management-oriented program that focuses on political feasibility, management feasibility, and really shaping solutions to sustainability problems. We have a visionary curriculum that combines environmental science, sustainability, equity, financial management, economics, and statistics. And our courses are taught by academics, but also a lot of practitioners, people that are very applied and really do understand the field of sustainability. The way the program works is that that you do, as I said, 3 semesters. In the summer, first summer is 19 points, then 18, then 17. In the summer, there's no electives, it's all requirements. But then in the fall, you get 1 elective, and in the spring, you get 2 electives, which allows you to shape your program a bit. And you also have the opportunity, if you have the background, to test out of economics and statistics, which then gives you more flexibility. The program does cover these 5 fields: environmental science, financial management and finance, economics, quantitative analysis and policy analysis, sustainability management, and environmental politics, policy, ethics, and social justice. So we require environmental science not to make you a scientist. You're not going to, be in the laboratory. But what you're going to, although we do a lot of field work, we do a lot of field trips, but this is environmental science, so you can understand enough science to manage the work of scientists and explain science to non-scientific decision makers. It requires financial management because finance and money are at the heart of every organization. It requires economics and statistics because economics and quantitative analysis are the language of modern organizational and policy analysis, and you simply have to have it if you're going to be an effective practitioner. Sustainability management is required because we teach both basics of management, but also we teach about how to make organizations carbon neutral and more environmentally constructive. And we require environmental politics, policy, and ethics and social justice issues like income inequality and racism and the ethics of environmental policy are all part of our required curriculum. So on the science side, the courses are environmental chemistry, climatology, hydrology, general ecology and urban ecology, and then risk assessment and toxicology. That's the science part of the curriculum. The social science part includes management, environmental policy, environmental ethics, and then you have the opportunity to shape your own elective in the 3 courses you have as electives. So let's say you wanted to focus on energy or food or water or any number of issues, you can do that through the elective offerings. We also uniquely offer a 3-semester workshop sequence, which allows us to integrate the different areas of knowledge. In the real world, you don't do chemistry and economics separately. You actually have to combine them in problem solving. And so in the summer and fall, we do a management simulation where we take a statute that's been proposed but not yet enacted, and we focus in the summer on understanding the science of the problem and the solution that's in the bill. And then in the fall, we pretend the bill has been passed, and we're going to develop an implementation plan for the program. We also teach a lot of practical skills, memo writing, how to do briefings, how to work in groups, how to work under tight deadlines. In the spring semester, the workshop is a client-based workshop where we do projects for government agencies and nonprofits. 10 or 12 students, a faculty advisor. These projects are extremely important. They've been important for our clients. They're important ways to integrate the things that we've learned. And the way the workshop topics are selected, usually in November, we have a meeting where students suggest the topics and the clients are interested in. Then we send that list to all the students, and they rank order their preferences, and their top 10 list becomes what the faculty are given to go after projects. And that's really how project selection is done. Then the students select, rank order their preferences. If we have an even number of students each wanting the different projects, they get their first choice. Sometimes they have to get their second choice so that we can have an even number of people in each group. Last year, our projects included projects for the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, for the Pacific Forest Trust, for the Government of Iceland, for the World Resources Institute, and the Coalition for Green Capital. If you go to the program's website, we go back to the beginning of the program with reports and PowerPoints, and at least in the last 15 years, videos of the students giving their presentations. You get a real feel for the kind of work our students have done in the workshop, which is really, I said, it's a 3-semester sequence of first simulation and then real projects for real clients. We're also, in the current world that we're in, and between pandemics and the struggle for racial justice, we are working very hard to incorporate these considerations even more into our program than we have in the past. It's always been a part of what we've done. You can't really have a sustainability solution without focusing on issues of environmental justice and racism and income inequality. But we are actually upping the ante this year and doing even more. We're focusing more on recruiting people of color as students. We're focused on more co-curricular and curricular activities. We're doing anti-racism training for our students and faculty and staff. And we have recently created a permanent committee on diversity and inclusion to really make sure that we improve our performance in this critical area. So Columbia itself is a tremendous advantage if you want to go to graduate school and be a successful professional. First, the Earth Institute has its own professional development group. Uh, they, they have something called the All Ivy League Environment and Sustainable Career Fair. And every late February and March, about 80 employers, about 1,000 students from all the Ivies come and make connections. The program and the Earth Institute together do dozens of career networking events through the course of the year. There's many panel discussions and speakers programs and student-run conferences, all of which bring back alums, a tremendous amount of networking. The Earth Institute also has a very active internship program where it hires current students to work as interns in its research programs, education programs, and also on Saturday mornings offers about a half a dozen times a year sustainability skills seminars, how to take the LEED exam, how to be a sustainability consultant, how to network, all those kinds of things in the Earth Institute's program. Now, SEPA itself does an enormous amount on career development. It has an Office of Career Services located on the ground floor of its building. There's all sorts of career training. We have an alumni career advisory program in the school, and the program itself has one. And there's all sorts of networking that goes on in SEPA. The way people find employment these days is through uh, electronic and face-to-face networking. And New York City, when we're up and running, which I hope we will be before much longer, is the center of networking. And if you read my blog, and if you haven't, Stephanie will send you some, uh, you know that people are concerned, is New York City going to come back? I assure you New York City's coming back. We've had setbacks before. We had a hurricane that knocked us out uh, in the first decade of the 21st century. We had some airplanes run into our skyscrapers on September 11th, 2001. We have had all sorts of setbacks through the years. The city almost went bankrupt in the 70s. New York City is an incredible place with incredible people. It's the most diverse global city in the world. Over 40% of the people who live in New York City were born in other countries. And I guarantee you that the city's maybe down right now, but it's far from out. And we have in our program an incredible network of alums who have been helping our recent graduates find employment. Lots of sessions like this on Zoom have been helping. We have over 900 active alums from this program. SEPA has 20,000 alums. We are in contact with our alums every summer. We ask them to mentor our current students, and they do that. These are some of the organizations they work for. But you can't find too many organizations in our field that don't have graduates from Earth Institute master's program. And as I said, New York is a very dynamic place. It's multicultural. There's incredible job opportunities. 20 million people live within an hour of where I'm sitting right now. And we have access to all sorts of organizations, everybody from Google to the United Nations to Amazon. And Environmental Defense and NRDC. Many of the organizations in our field are located here or have a big office here. So this is a place, New York is a place to go if you want to be connected as a professional. And we have a group of faculty that are themselves experts and practitioners, people who have worked. I started my career at the Environmental Protection Agency. I consulted with EPA for 20 years. Many of our faculty do similar kinds of work in addition to being here on our campus. So obviously I'm a little biased. I invented the program, and I've been teaching it and directing it for almost 2 decades now. I actually think it's quite good. I think it's unique. We built it really to serve the field of sustainability in the public, private, and nonprofit sector. So if you're interested, uh, you should apply. It's online. We look for your transcripts. We look for good grades. We look for GRE scores, although a very liberal waiver policy. Um, we need your resume. We look at work experience. We look at whether you have the analytic background that the program requires. Um, we look for letters of recommendation. What's really important to us is your personal statement where you explain why we're the right program for you. It's extremely important to our faculty that you not only be talented, but that you know what we do and you find our curriculum attractive. And that's very important that you see that, and we look for that in the personal statement. If you're an international student who did not get an undergraduate degree in a place where the instruction was in English, you have to take the TOEFL or the IELTS exam. So those are the things you need to apply. What do we look for? Well, first, let me say that nothing gets you in or keeps you out. And we have a very diverse student body in every way, both in terms of experience and in terms of ethnicity and nation and just about any dimension you can think of. We look for a heterogeneous student body. And we look at your grades and your test scores and your preparation. We look to see what kind of work experience you've had. Also, how familiar are you with environmental issues? About, I guess, 15% of our program now are students that come directly out of undergraduate. And so there we're looking for, have you done internships? Have you been active in the clubs in the environment in your college? We look for those kinds of things. We look for commitment to public service. We're looking for people who want to make the world a better place. We really want to make sure that the people who come here want to be in our program. And this was, again, we call it fit. It's very important in the application process. If you're interested, we have an early decision deadline of November 1st, and then we get you your admit decision, fellowship decision, I think within about 6 weeks. And then you have till January 15th if you're applying for a fellowship, and February 15th if you don't need a fellowship. Applications are reviewed on a rolling basis. What that means is that the earlier you apply, the better chance you have of getting in. As we get toward the end of the process, most of our slots are committed and it gets harder. So since you're paying attention to us in July, if you're interested in us, apply early. You have a better chance of getting in early rather than late. We do provide some financing, although, and fellowship students do have to make a contribution to their own scholarship. We have one full fellowship called the Dean's Fellowship. We have some other scholarships as well. We give out about $800,000 a year in scholarship money. And then there's also internships and teaching assistantships, the new John and Teresa Wallace Fellowship, the Shard Dashish Interschool Fellowship for students from India, a Yellow Ribbon Program for military veterans from the United States. So there are those opportunities, but Columbia and New York are expensive places to go to school, and it's important to think about it as an investment. The students who have invested in this degree, I think have found it to be a worthwhile investment. But like I said, it's an expensive place to go to school, and it's really important that you think about that before you decide to attend. We have our financial aid office, which can help you. This year, the cost of attendance, tuition and fees is about $90,000. So as I said, it's an expensive place to go to school. The next steps would be, if you're interested, is to speak with us. Normally, I'd be saying, come to campus, but I'm in my dining room in Morningside Heights. Columbia owns my apartment, and so I'm on Columbia's campus, but I'm not at my office at Columbia. But we are going to have our workshop final briefings on August 5th, and you're invited to attend that through Zoom. And to talk with us and to talk to our current students and alums, with which Stephanie can arrange for, and perhaps that will give you a feel for the kind of community we have. We have a great summer class going on right now. I'm teaching in it. And there is a wonderful sense of community and a sense of mission among our students. And I'm a little surprised by that because we haven't been together in the same room. We're used to eating and drinking together. And now we're Zooming together, an experience I'm sure all of you are familiar with. But it's good. It's a good thing to have, but I'd rather be together. And again, by the time you would come here, I'm quite confident we will be back on campus doing the things that we used to do. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
You guys can type your questions in the chat box or raise your hand and I can call on you. While they're thinking, Steve, do you want to talk about the difference between this program and the sustainability management program?
Sure. Well, I run both of them, so I can tell you about that. So the Sustainability Management Program is a 36-point degree program, not a 54 points. You can't get to the same level of depth that we get here. And there's no courses there that have prerequisites, where in the case of this program, it does. This is a much more structured program. 2/3 of the students in the Sustainability Management Program are working full-time and go to school in the evening. All the classes are in the evening. So some of the content is similar. And in fact, many of our students in this program take electives in the Sustainability Management Program. And so there is a single community, but they are different programs in terms of their structure and orientation. I should also say that in this program, our graduates go pretty evenly into nonprofit, public, and private sector, where in that program, it's almost all private sector. So there are a few nonprofits in there, but almost nobody from that program goes into government. Those are the key differences.
Great, we have some questions now. So Vanessa was wondering if you can explain how the program prepares students seeking a career working for an international or multilateral organization.
Well, you know, in the subject matter of the international organization or a domestic organization is very similar. But what I would say, if that's your target, then your electives should be some of SEPA's international affairs courses. They have a UN studies program. They have faculty who have worked in all of the, in UNESCO, in UNEP, in the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, and so on and so forth. And so you could form an elective sequence that will prepare you for that as well.
Great. We have another question about the tuition and fees. Julius was wondering if we could confirm whether or not the $90,000 are just for tuition or if that also includes accommodation, and that's only tuition. So you'd have to pay for housing on top of that.
Right.
Let's see. Mac was wondering how common it is for students to come directly into the program from undergrad.
Well, it's more common now than it was when we started. I think it's about 15%. Is that right now?
Yeah.
And the reason that's happened is when we started the program, we thought it would be better. And I think in general, it's better for people to work for a while. But what people have been finding is that the professional work experience you get in those 2 or 3 years after undergraduate isn't very valuable. That without the master's, you can't get the professional background. So the question then is, do I really need somebody to spend 3 years as a barista before they come into my program? And the answer to that is no. So why not come directly? And more people are finding that's the case. There was a time when an undergraduate degree, and to some degree, you can still get professional experience with an undergraduate degree, but it's harder than it was before. And many undergraduates are competing with people with master's degrees. And so what happens is people with the master's degrees get the jobs, and they get jobs that aren't as professionally useful. And so that's why we're seeing more people come directly from undergraduate school than there used to be. I regret that, but that is the fact of the economy. So we have adjusted to that.
How big are the cohorts usually?
Usually between 50 and 60. This cohort is a little smaller. We're in the 40s this year because obviously some people decided they wanted to wait until they could do this face-to-face. Um, it's interesting. When we first asked people, everybody wanted to go face-to-face, which of course, so do I. But as we got closer to the start around at the end of May, a whole bunch of people decided that they didn't want to lose the year and took the courses online. That's what we're doing right now. In the fall, we're going to do a hybrid where we're going to have some classes face-to-face and some classes online. In fact, in the workshop, which I teach, we're going to do some pieces of it online, and then the individual team meetings will be face-to-face. And the sustainability management course that I teach will be face-to-face, but students will probably have to alternate weeks in person, and the other week would be through Zoom. Our hope, though, is, in fact, I'm pretty confident by the time you folks arrive, we'll all have vaccines, and this will be in the rearview mirror. Uh, you, uh, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. So, and I know I'm an optimist, but I think that we'll have that by May.
Lauren was wondering, are there applied experiences that are included throughout the program?
Yeah, a lot of group projects, a lot of work that's applied. The workshop itself is very applied, and in many of the courses that students take, there are projects, often group projects. I mean, we are very big on group work in this program because the nature of environmental sustainability is you need people with a lot of different disciplines. You need environmental scientists and public health experts and lawyers and engineers and policy analysts. They need to work together. And so one of the great and really important skills in this program that we work on is teaching people how to work as a part of a team. And so virtually every course has group projects, and then students, even though I think it's a little much, they do end up usually certainly by the final semester doing internships in and around the university, the institute, or the city. Um, and how they do 18 graduate credits and work 10 hours a week as an intern is a little beyond me, but our students are very ambitious and they manage to do it.
I think Alejandro had his hand raised.
Okay.
Oh, thank you for noticing, Stephanie.
Mhm.
My name is Alejandro, Professor Cohen. I'm a rising senior at Columbia, actually, in sustainable development. And my question was regarding the fellowships. And my question was like, how does the timing look like applying to funding resources in terms of applying for the program itself? Would it be after acceptance, or would it be in tandem with applying for the program?
Both. I mean, when people are admitted, we make the fellowship decision at that time. So if you applied for early decision, we would tell you what your fellowship would look like at that time. Um, and now, of course, whether you could add to that with internships or other things, that those things would come later as the opportunities arise.
Thank you.
All right. Cecilia was wondering how this program is different from the MA in conservation biology. They said they also focus on policy.
Well, they don't actually. uh, the conservation biology is taught by E3B, which is our ecology department. Many scientific environmental science programs will have a policy course or two as part of what they do. And that's what they think of as public policy. This is a Master of Public Administration. You get the same economics, statistics, and management that the other SEPA students get in their policy degree. And actually, there's a lot of similarities between the economics and finance and management of an MPA and an MBA, although the MBA has more finance. We replace that with politics. But no Master of Arts and Science or no Master of Science in an environmental science program is going to have the same amount of public policy that a public administration or an MPP would have. So they're very different kinds of degrees. But I think a lot of environmental science faculty have decided, I think correctly, that it's a very important field for public policy. And so they will teach public policy. For many years, I was uh, Columbia's E3B, Ecology and Environmental Biology Department. I was their public policy advisor, so I would help their students find the 1 or 2 policy courses they needed to take to get their science degree.
We're getting some more questions about tuition, so I'm going to put the full list of tuition and fees breakdown in the chat so you guys can check that out. Let's see, we have another question from Benjamin about why there is no capstone. Can you explain?
Well, there is a capstone. The spring workshop, we call it a workshop, is a capstone. We do projects in groups for clients. SEPA has a capstone program, which is in the spring semester, where they do projects for clients also. Our students don't enroll in their capstone, they do ours. But yes, we have that, and that, I mean, I actually, to go way back, when I first arrived at Columbia from EPA, I created the first capstones at SEPA, and we have been doing them in SEPA since the spring of 1982, and have a long tradition of this. We decided very early on to get rid of master's theses and replace them with these group projects for clients, but we definitely have a capstone experience, just we don't call it the capstone, we call it the workshop.
All right, so we have another question about what the early decision deadline means, whether or not you're locked into a decision.
Well, you're not locked in, we're locked in. In other words, we decide to admit you. I mean, we're actually looking for people who are really determined and confident that we're the place for them. And so, but you know, you may be applying to other places and they make their decisions later, because we start the day after Memorial Day in the United States. And that means you have to decide before many other programs that will start in September. So very often people in March are trying to decide, well, should I go to Yale, should I go to Duke, or should I go to Columbia? I can tell you now you should go to Columbia, but you know, they might be giving you a better scholarship. You may decide that you want to be living in the sticks for reasons I don't understand why anybody would want to live in those other places. But you know, I've lived in New York most of my life, and I find those other places boring. But you know, it's everybody has their own preferences. But at any event, you're not locked in. We're the ones who are locked in.
And then Meredith was wondering, can someone with much professional experience but no math and science background succeed in the program?
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably will want to do some preparation before you arrive. If you haven't seen an algebraic formula since high school, it'll be kind of a cruel shock when you get to environmental chemistry if you haven't done that. But we've had people who have not seen algebra since high school, let alone calculus, and they've succeeded. They've worked really hard. We've had students from the fashion industry. We've had people who studied ballet and music, and they decide somewhere along the line that they really need to focus on environmental sustainability. They want to save the planet. I think it's a good thing, and they think it's a good thing. And so and they've made a real important contribution, I would say, to the program. In other words, we want people that don't have that background. In part, what happens in the summer is about half our students are science majors and half aren't. And the science majors do a lot of instruction to the non-science majors. And then it gets reversed in the fall when the people who've had politics and economics and policy have to explain that to these poor scientists. And so it's that dialogue that's really at the heart of the program, which is really why the field is so important, why the program is so important to the field, because people have these different backgrounds, but the problems we're trying to address require a diversity of backgrounds and knowledge to solve. You know, I'll give you an example. I created the citizen participation program for the Superfund program, toxic waste program, when I was at EPA. And one of the things that we tried to do there was explain in toxicity to the average person, which is really a hard thing to do. And it was a difficult, and so we needed people with literature background, actually. How do you explain these complex concepts? The other thing that I learned later, much later, when I worked at the Earth Institute, is we had urban design people. When we created a solution for a toxic waste site, they would go to a public meeting with a full design description uh, in 3 dimensions of what the area would look like after the remediation. And I learned that the designers and architects had some really important lessons in visualization that assisted in communication. And so you need all of these different fields together. And I think that's really part of what we've learned through this program over the years.
Great. So Deanna has a specific question about the application. Deanna, I'm not sure what you mean by your question, so maybe we can email back and forth.
I can say it now if that's okay.
Yeah,
There's a question that asks about what international policy means to you on the application. I
think you might be in the wrong application, so I'll take a look.
Yeah,
that's meant to be there. That's why I was so surprised when I saw it.
That you may be in the Master of International Affairs application, which is one of SEPA's programs.
Okay.
We have our own for environmental science and policy, so it can be a little. SEPA has about, there's a Master of Development Practice, a Master of Program and Economic Policy Management. There's a MPA and MIA, a dozen concentrations, and then there's our program. So you and Stephanie should interact, and she'll help you find the right application.
Okay, thank you.
We have another question from Michael about how the climate school is going to affect the program.
Well, the climate school is still being created. It will take a few years. And the climate school is not going to be a school in the sense that like SEPA is a school. It's going to be essentially a collection of faculty. I mean, the Earth Institute has a faculty, and that faculty group will become more routinized through the climate school. And so, for example, I have an appointment. I'm on the Earth Institute faculty, although my formal appointment is in the School of International Public Affairs. Once the climate school gets created, I might have a partial appointment in that school and in SEPA. But our degree program would stay in SEPA. It would probably remain a partnership between SEPA and the Earth Institute. It's not clear yet whether the climate school will swallow the Earth Institute or the Earth Institute will swallow the climate school. It's basically the same people working on it. So I guess right now we're not sure. It probably will take 3 or 4 years before the climate school is fully up and running. And so over the short term, it won't make that much of a difference. The idea behind it is basically that it will provide resources to the other schools, Columbia College, SEPA, the graduate school, professional studies, engineering, public health, to help their programs in sustainability and environment add more climate science and policy and management to their curriculum. And so that's several years off, and it really won't affect the next several years.
Great. We have a couple questions about GRE waivers and the average scores of GREs.
Okay, so I hate the GRE. I think it's an idiotic test. And so there's never been a waiver request I haven't liked. If you have GREs though, I mean, see, for me, I was terrible in college, but I did great on standardized tests. I was also terrible in high school. So that's the only reason I was able to get into college and get into graduate school. I did well on these tests, but I don't think that they're that useful, frankly. So if you do well in them like I did, send them. If you do badly in them, ask for a waiver. That's my suggestion on that. And don't tell the dean that I told you that. But that's my attitude toward these standardized tests. I think that they can be a useful corrective, but I'm not quite sure what they're measuring, and I certainly don't see them as a cutoff of one kind or another. There are programs that do that, but we're not one of them.
The other question is about the TOEFL waiver. And maybe there's a waiver request that you can complete, and they'll look at your waiver request, and then they usually will allow you to not take the test. They're definitely going to be more lenient on those requests since we have the global pandemic and those testing agencies aren't always open in different places. So once you start an application, just let me know and I can send you the waivers for those. And then we have a couple questions about attending class through Zoom in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
We can set that up.
Yeah, that will definitely be possible. And we always encourage prospective students to attend class. We like it better when it's in person, but you know, there'll be a lot of limits on people on campus this fall. I mean, just to tell you what they are, everybody who goes to campus has to be tested for COVID-19 by the university. They're setting up testing sites. I'm going in for mine in a couple of weeks or next week. And also there's a daily, there's an app they've set up where you report on your health condition. And if you are not feeling well, you're required to not come to campus. So, and there's going to be, you have to have, in the classroom, you have to be 6 feet from other people. There's personal protective equipment required, masks and everything. So the bottom line is probably the safest place to be in New York City next fall will be on Columbia's campus. But what it also means is that because they're limiting, like there won't be any special events. The only thing we're going to do on campus is there'll be some undergraduates living there and there'll be classes, but there won't be any special events, which is real. And all the special events will be virtual. And we've done a lot of them already, panel discussions and things like that. We haven't quite figured out how to do a wine and cheese reception through Zoom. But when they invent the Zoom transporter and we can do that, we'll get one of those things. Hopefully we'll have this fixed before then.
All right, I think that was all of the questions. If you guys have any last minute questions, you're welcome to type them in or unmute yourself.
I do want to encourage all of you to connect with us, connect with our students and alums. Stephanie will work to do that. You know, I want to emphasize that our program is a community and our graduates are part of that community. And that's why it works. People help each other. It's not a competitive program. It's a cooperative program. And there's an important sense of mission our students share with each other, with the faculty, and with the alums. And so I hope you're interested. And if you are, please apply. And hopefully we can welcome you into our community.
All right, we got one last question from Cecilia. She was asking if the application is open, and it is open. So here's the link to the application. And then Julia was wondering about financial aid, and I'll send you guys a full list of financial aid opportunities with the recording and the presentations for you guys to look at.
Thank you all for Zooming in, and look forward to seeing you face to face in New York, perhaps at the end of May of 2021.